Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. The sounds and spirit of the campaign go silent. Candidates across 49 seats now leave their fate in voters' hands. India votes in the fifth phase of the general elections on May 20. Fierce fighting continues in northern Gaza. This despite Arab leaders agreeing in Bahrain to work together to stop Israeli aggression in Gaza. Russia says it has taken control of a village in Ukraine's Kharkiv region. Ukraine's Zelensky to complete 5 years in office on May 20. His approval rating is around 60%. And the biggest fight in boxing tonight, Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk for the undisputed world heavyweight title. Let's get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. Campaigning for the fifth phase of India's general election 2024 timed out on Saturday. Voting for the fifth phase will take place on May 20 when 49 constituencies from 8 states and union territories will go to the polls. With the remaining 13 out of the 48 seats in Maharashtra voting, this phase will mark the end of the polls in the state. It will also be the last phase of voting in the union territory of Jammu and Kashmir, as one of the 5 constituencies will be voting, and the union territory of Ladak will also be voting in this phase. The 2024 general elections, which began on April 19, is seeing the country of nearly 1 billion voters poll in 7 phases until June 1. The results will be declared on June 4. As campaigning ended for the fifth phase, the focus now shifts almost seamlessly to the sixth phase. Star campaigners, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Chief Ministers of BJP-ruled states intensified their campaign for the sixth phase. Mihir Makuri gets us the lowdown on the shift in focus to the sixth phase. Here's his report.
As the curtains fell on the campaigning for the fifth phase of polls in India's 7th-phase general elections on Saturday, the political campaigning for the sixth phase of elections began. India's Prime Minister and senior BJP leader Narendra Modi spearheaded the BJP's election charge in Haryana, where 10 seats are up for grabs. While addressing his rallies in Sonipat and Ambala, PM Modi intensified his attack on the Congress party, emphasizing that for the Congress, the vote bank is paramount.
कांग्रेस को महिलाओं से, किसानों से, नौजवानों से कोई मतलब नहीं है। कांग्रेस को सिर्फ वोट से मतलब है। अब बताइए, दिल्ली और हरियाणा में हाथ में झाड़ू लेकर घूम रहे हैं और पंजाब में कह रहे हैं झाड़ू वाला चोर है। अब इन्होंने हरियाणा वालों को समझ क्या रखा है? भाइयों बहनों, इनके लिए वोट बैंक ही सब कुछ है।
In the evening, the Prime Minister held a poll rally in northeast Delhi. During the address, Prime Minister Modi expressed confidence, stating that with the blessings of the people, the BJP is on track to secure a hat-trick victory on all 7 seats. Saturday also saw BJP National President JP Nadda holding multiple rallies in the northern Indian state of Himachal Pradesh. While addressing his rallies in Kangra, Chamba and Shimla, Nadda slammed the opposition India alliance, emphasizing that they don't care about the public.
जो अभी सरकार है ये बैक गियर सरकार, इसमें फ्रंट गियर है ही नहीं, ये आगे चलती नहीं है, ये बैक गियर लगाती है, फर्स्ट गियर है ही नहीं, ये बैक गियर लगी हुई है। 900 इंस्टीट्यूशंस बंद कर दिए, 900 इंस्टीट्यूशंस, 650 के आसपास ऑफिसेज और इंस्टीट्यूशंस बंद हो गए, स्कूल्स बंद हो गए। और इसलिए मैं निवेदन करना चाहता हूं, अब कमल खिलेगा और हमेशा कमल खिलेगा, इसकी चिंता कीजिए।
Union Minister and BJP candidate from the Hamirpur Lok Sabha seat, Anurag Singh Thakur, addressed a public meeting in Una, Himachal Pradesh. Meanwhile, Union Minister and senior BJP leader Rajnath Singh held an election rally in UP's Basti. In Bihar's Siwan, Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma addressed a public rally to garner support from the voters for the BJP. Uttarakhand CM Pushkar Singh Dhami held roadshows and public meetings in support of BJP's New Delhi Lok Sabha candidate Basuri Swaraj. Leaders of the opposition India Alliance have ramped up their campaign efforts. As part of the sequence, senior Congress leader Rahul Gandhi held an election rally in Delhi's Chandni Chowk. Samajwadi Party chief Akhilesh Yadav campaigned for the alliance candidates. While targeting the BJP in Balrampur, he confidently asserted that the results will favour the Indie bloc on June 4th.
बीजेपी चुनाव हार चुकी है। उनकी भाषा से, उनके भाषण से पूरे देश की जनता जान गई है कि उनका काउंटडाउन शुरू हो गया है।
In Bihar, RJD candidate Prasar Bharati, who is contesting from Patliputra, was also seen campaigning in the area. In Haryana's Kurukshetra, Punjab's Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann, while addressing a public meeting, emphasized that our politics revolves around action, not merely rhetoric.
मैं अपने 2.25 साल के काम गिना के वोट मांग रहा हूं। अरविंद केजरीवाल जी 8 साल से दिल्ली के मुख्यमंत्री हैं, वो 8 साल के काम गिना के वोट मांग रहे हैं। हम नाम की राजनीति नहीं करते, हम काम की राजनीति करते हैं।
Congress candidate Raj Babbar, contesting from the Gurgaon Lok Sabha seat, emphasized the strength of his candidacy by stating that his fight is not against any individual or party, but against the issues plaguing the area. Mihir Makri's report for DD India.
And let's listen and talk to our correspondents now who are on the field. Kriti Vadera is joining us from Ayodhya, Gautam Roy from Leh, and Salman Haider from Patna. Thanks very much for being with us. Kriti, let me start with you. What's the contest like in Faizabad, and to what extent is the BSP likely to take away votes from either the SP or the BJP?
Well, good evening, Mark. And today the political campaign has come to an end by today's evening. And when it comes to the political equation here, the two-time Member of Parliament, Lalu Singh from Bharatiya Janata Party, is contesting again. And it appears that he is very confident when it comes to his win, keeping in mind the consecration ceremony and the establishment of Ram Janmabhoomi temple in heart of Ayodhya. Of course, for which the election equation seems to be little upper side for Bharatiya Janata Party. And let me tell you that on this parliamentary seat, which is called Faizabad, none of the parliamentarians have made a hat trick in history. This is the very first time where a candidate is contesting third time, and he's seeking to win this parliament election. And on the other hand, the India Alliance has fielded Avdesh Prasad, who appears to be a 9-time member of Legislative Assembly from Samajwadi Party, and he's a mass leader, he's a Dalit leader, he's supported by many, and he comes from a Milkipur assembly seat, which is just nearby to Ayodhya. And this Faizabad parliamentary seat constitutes of 5 assembly seats, amongst which Ayodhya is quite famous because it's a spiritual, cultural hub, and nowadays Ayodhya is getting international exposure due to the establishment of Lord Ram Janmabhoomi temple. And such equations, of course, are playing a key role if it comes to Ayodhya's election. And of course, when it comes to development, massive infrastructure development we have seen post consecration ceremony, and yes, there's an urge of more facilities amongst voters. We have been walking onto the streets of Ayodhya. The people of Ayodhya need good facilities in terms of medical facilities and in terms of education facilities. They have to rush to Lucknow. This is what we have heard, and they want good establishments of hospitals and medical colleges within Ayodhya itself, so that they don't have to rush for in case of any emergency. So that's the mindset. Beyond this, the authorities,
Yes, Kriti, let me move on to Gautam.
The authorities have been rigorously working for the polls.
Yeah, let me go on to Gautam. Gautam, is it a two-way contest in Ladakh, or are we looking at, are there more options in terms of independence?
Well, July mark, as they say here in Ladakh, and to just answer your question in a very short form, yes, there is an independent candidate in the fray, but let me tell you why. Because Ladakh is basically two large districts. It's the largest constituency in the country. It's roughly 173,000 kilometers and 185,000 voters here. So not even 1.1 voter per square kilometer. So that's the kind of spread or remoteness of this area is what we're looking at. But there are two districts. One is Leh and the other is Kargil. And the Congress and NC, they are the opposition because the BJP is the one that has won the elections twice here for the Lok Sabha. And the BJP has Tashi Gyaltsen, the Congress has Sering Namgyal. Both are from Leh. So the impression earlier was that the candidate for the Congress and NC, the India alliance, will be from Kargil, which didn't happen. So the entire unit of the NC and the Congress there, they rebelled along with the candidate who's an independent now, Haji Hanifa Jan. And this has become an election where people have been speculating what will happen, because the votes in Leh will get divided, and Leh in any case has a slightly fewer number of voters than Kargil, and Kargil has become united. So that's the kind of an equation that we're looking at here in Ladakh.
Salman, what are the key contests in Bihar in this phase? Which among, Muzaffarpur, Madhubani, Hajipur, Sitamarhi and Saran are the pundits looking at closely?
Yes, Mark, very good evening to you. Muzaffarpur, Hajipur and Saran, these are key seats there on which the interesting results will be there. As you know, Ajay Nishad from Muzaffarpur is two-time MP from BJP. Now when BJP denied him a ticket, he is now contesting on Congress's ticket. And as far as Hajipur is concerned, as you know, Chirag Paswan, the heir of late Ramvilas Paswan, is contesting election. And in Saran, it is also interesting to see that Rohini Acharya, the Lalu Yadav's younger daughter, is in contest, is rather in head-on fight with Rudy, Rajiv Pratap Rudy, who had been minister in earlier NDA government.
Yes.
So the fight on all seats are very interesting, and almost on all seats there is two-way fight, two-way contest. But it remains to be seen that BSP also, the Bahujan Samaj Party, has also fielded candidates on these seats. So there is chances of division of votes among the contestants. But as of now, a two-corner contest is being seen here.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. We have no more time to continue this discussion. Thanks very much for joining us. Kriti Vadera, Gautam Roy and Salman Haider. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. The US hails India as the world's most vibrant democracy, appreciates Prime Minister Modi's leadership. India's chief economist says that the government is addressing the employment challenge. And Slovakia's Prime Minister Ficos' condition remains serious but stable 3 days after being hit by an assassin's bullets.
Solutions like these that make it less bleak.
The interest in insect farming in India came only in the context of environmental management to convert these municipal and then organic waste.
There are around 10,000 crickets in this container. It contains over 60% protein.
At first, I took the initiative to stop the sewage runoff in my own home, using what I knew and on my own volition.
It's a research topic for the future, but it would be really good to be able to treat the water and be able to reuse it, and at the same time produce plants for human consumption and other uses.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, as India prepares for the upcoming fifth phase of Lok Sabha elections, the Election Commission of India has put in place several arrangements, special arrangements for postal ballots, and these measures aim to ensure that all eligible voters can exercise their democratic right, even if they are unable to visit polling stations in person. Here's a report by DD India's Kriti Vadaira.
The Election Commission of India has identified several groups eligible for postal ballots to facilitate their participation in the electoral process. These groups include service voters, persons with disabilities, senior citizens, persons with special detention, and special voters. The special arrangements for postal ballot reflects Election Commission of India's commitment towards inclusive and accessible voting. In postal ballot process, voters mark their choices on the postal ballot, seal it in the designated envelope and return it to the returning officer. This process ensures confidentiality and security through unique identification procedures. In service, employees feel pleased that they will not miss the opportunity to vote.
This EDC certificate is very much convenient for all of us who is on duty, because while we are on duty, we won't be able to cast our vote simultaneously. But with this EDC certificate, at the very end of the polling session, we can cast our vote and choose who we want to vote. So it is very helpful for us.
By extending special arrangements for voting and postal ballot facilities, Election Commission of India ensures that none of the voters of India should be left behind in practicing their right to vote, irrespective of their physical and logistical constraint. With camera person Yogesh Tiwari, I am Kriti Vadhera reporting from Ayodhya Dham for DD India.
Ladak is going to the polls on Monday for its single parliamentary seat in the fifth of the seven-phased national elections. Campaigning is over now, and the Union Territory has seen a keenly contested battle by the candidates of the national parties like the BJP and the Congress from Leh and an independent candidate from Kargil. The choice is tough for Ladak's roughly 185,000 voters, but they're unanimous on one issue, that efforts to make the Union Territory carbon neutral by 2050 are going strong and should be taken further. Gautam Roy reports from Leh.
Ladakh has had a long-standing relationship with harnessing the sun's energy, be it lighting its streets or powering their homes. Solar water heaters sold at rates subsidized to as much as 75% by the Ladakh Hill Autonomous Development Council in both Leh and Kargil districts are an integral part of most Ladakh homes. The Union Territory gets bright sunlight 320 out of 365 days a year. In winters, when temperatures plunge to as low as minus 40 degrees Celsius, these solar water heaters are no less than lifesavers.
इसकी वजह से हमको सुबह शाम रात दिन हर वक्त गर्म पानी मिलता है सर, चाहे हाथ धोने के लिए चाहे नहाने के लिए बहुत फ़ायदा है सर। ये तो हमारे जो लद्दाख जैसे सर्दियों में बहुत के काम में आता है।
Even e-mobility has been introduced in Ladakh with India's first carbon neutral integrated solar EV charging station where even private EV cars can be charged. The buses do the rounds of not only cities like Leh and Kargil but also ferry passengers to and from villages 70 to 80 kilometers away.
The government has already introduced 19 e-buses in the Union Territory of Ladakh, for public transportation. And these buses are more comfortable, safety-wise. It's ergonomic-wise. It's cleaner, it's safer, and it's placed on different routes as as it stands now.
Passengers using the service of electric public transport are appreciative of the efforts and want them to be extended further.
It's a good idea. If lots of people use electric bus, except for their personal cars, there is a less chance their pollution will be increased. So in my case, I'll use many times electric bus when I reach in time.
But Ladakh is on the flight path of becoming carbon neutral by 2050, and multiple initiatives are being rolled out to make it happen. These range from making the Leh airport carbon neutral with an array of solar panels on its new and upcoming structures. Several mega solar power projects are also being set up in different parts of the Union Territory to power up the national northern grid. And a green hydrogen mobility project in Leh's Palam is also being readied to ply hydrogen-fueled zero-pollution buses. The goal to make Ladakh carbon neutral by 2050 may sound like a distant dream. But someone wise had once said that Rome wasn't built in a day. But with the way and the multiple facets that this work is being taken forward, this Rome will surely be built brick by brick, or shall we say solar panel by solar panel. With camera person Naveen Kumar Jha, Gautam Roy, Leh, Ladakh, DD India.
Well, Bengal has a rich history of India's colonial past, and one of the biggest peasant movements against the forced indigo cultivation rose from this state. It was after this that the East India Company seized power to the British Crown. And, well, take a look now at this special report from the land of Neel Kutirs, as it's locally known there. Debyendu Mondal has filed this report.
Bengal has been rich in history and culture. It was here where the East India Company first landed and then ruled over India. We take you inside the reminiscence of this almost 200 years old British architecture, or perhaps a British building, where the officers who forced farmers of this particular area, and in fact in large parts of Bengal, to cultivate indigo, lived here and ruled over the peasants of Bengal. Remember, in 1858, just after the Sepoy Mutiny, the Indigo Revolution began in West Bengal. It was from here that the peasants gave a call to revolt against the mighty British Empire. It is now attracting hundreds of tourists from different parts of the country to come here. Of course, this requires much maintenance by the government, or perhaps by the local authorities here, because many tourists come here. It is situated just by the river Ichamati, and it was here the hundreds, and perhaps now it is surrounded by jungle because it has not been maintained for many years. Such buildings that still exist in many parts of Bengal speaks about the colonial past, the colonial history of India. With camera person PK, this is Debyendu Mondal from Bangaon in West Bengal for TT India.
Well, the United States has praised India's vibrant democracy as the country holds the world's largest election. A U.S. official applauded the Indian voters for exercising their franchise.
Not too many more vibrant democracies in the world than India, and we applaud the Indian people for exercising, their ability to vote and to have a voice in their future government. And we wish them well.
Moving on, India's chief economic advisor V. Anantha Nageshwaran said that the government is focusing on addressing employment generation challenge through skilling and employability.
The reverse migration that happened during the COVID years is actually returning to normalcy. And there is employment generation. If you look at the data in 21-22 and 22-23, which wasn't the case before, manufacturing sector, having put its balance sheet O's behind it, has started generating jobs. And also the growth in the real estate sector from the lows of 2018, 19, etc., is also leading to job creation in the construction sector. And as I pointed out in my presentation, the combination of better physical digital infrastructure and the balance sheets, I think should show us if in the coming years that employment generation challenge will largely get addressed, but there is still work to be done, which is about skilling and employability.
In the latest in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the Russian forces have captured the village of Staritsia, which is in Ukraine's Kharkiv region, and the Russian Defense Ministry said that the Russian troops are continuing to advance in the area. The Russian forces attacked Kharkiv region's north last Friday, making inroads of up to 10 kilometers and outnumbering Kiev's troops who are trying to hold on to the area. Putin said that Russia was creating a buffer zone in Ukraine's northeast to protect its own border regions, but said that capturing of the city of Kharkiv, which is Ukraine's second largest, is not part of his current plan. Now, Dasha Chernyshova has the latest from Moscow and she joins us for more. Dasha, what is the latest on the ground offensive to create a buffer zone in Kharkiv?
Well, as we have heard from the Russian Ministry of Defense, the village of Staritsi has now come under the Russian control, and the Russian armed forces are improving their positions in the Kharkiv region. Now, keep in mind, the Russian armed forces have been advancing on this direction over the past week, taking under their control over a dozen of different villages. The military analysts say if the Russian armed forces have under their control the villages of Izbitska, Staritsa and Bugravatska, then these three they create a very important defense line for the Ukrainian armed forces. Now, this could be one of the maneuvers, they say, to isolate Volchansk, and if so, then obviously the Russian armed forces will be gaining further momentum on this direction. President Vladimir Putin most recently said that Moscow is seeking to create the buffer zone. He has been warning about that for a while now. It's about but at least 6 months since Vladimir Putin first said that Moscow will be seeking to create this sanitary zone on the territory of Ukraine. All that is to make sure that the Ukrainian armed forces and the Ukrainian missiles are far away from the Russian border regions of Belgorod, Kursk and Bryansk. So this situation is developing very rapidly, and the Ukrainian side has also been admitting some setbacks on this direction.
How is the new cabinet in President Putin's fifth term bringing fresh ideas into this longer than expected military operation?
Well, the most recent reshuffle, which involves the nomination of Andrei Belousov, a veteran economist, to the position of the Minister of Defense, is obviously indicative of where this operation is heading. Many analysts say here that it means that the operation will last for quite a while, because even the Russian officials, they themselves explained that the military budget of the country has increased. It was 3% just a couple of years ago. Now it is over 6%. And this number could be increasing even further. So these are the levels last seen in the 1980s. And these budgets have to be allocated properly. The idea that the Russian president put in this nomination says that the new minister will have to deal with innovation and advanced ideas brought to the Ministry of Defense, as well as more money poured in. Andrei Belousov has experience in reconstructing and actually constructing Russia's drone industry. Under him, the number of drones produced in Russia has increased significantly, and he was the one who managed to incorporate that for the needs of the Russian armed forces. So much more ideas are expected to be brought up by these economists to the Russian army now.
Well, away from the battlefront, Dasha, is there much interest in Russia for the Alexander Usyk heavyweight boxing title that's going to take place tonight? His wife is a Russian citizen, and he is originally from Crimea.
Well, certainly if you look at the Russian websites, media websites and the Russian papers, they do say it is a fight of the century, and they do provide some background information about the fighters who are participating. So definitely for those who are interested in this type of sport, nationality is something that they can close their eyes on, and they will be watching for the fight instead of who is fighting on the ring there.
Okay, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Dasha Chandrashova from Moscow with the latest. Now, Slovakia's health minister has said that the condition of Prime Minister Robert Fico has stabilized but remains serious. This is in the wake of Fico's assassination attempt on Wednesday. Deputy Prime Minister Robert Kalinak stated that Fico's transfer to Bratislava won't occur in the coming days. Despite this, communication with the Premier continues. Fico's recent 2-hour surgery has bolstered hopes for his recovery. Meanwhile, a specialized criminal court in Pezinok ruled on Saturday that the man charged with an assassination attempt on the Prime Minister will be held in custody. The suspect, identified by local media as Juraj C., has been charged with attempted murder and brought to the court close to Bratislava for a hearing. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. We'll be discussing the political mood ahead of the 5th phase of elections in India. We'll also look at India's classic Manthan's impact in Khan.
Hype versus facts. In-depth news and analysis with experts who will help you decide why this election matters. DD India is the main election headquarters with numbers most accurate, data most reliable, and viewership across the platforms. Stay tuned to the Great Indian Election only on weekdays at 8:30 p.m. IST and 1500 hours GMT.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. And now we're joined by Aditi Tandon, Associate Editor of the Tribune, and we'll be talking about the political mood in India and the conduct of the largest election in the world. Ms. Tandon, this is quite a task, conducting the world's largest election. Do you see the same enthusiasm among the key campaigners who have been campaigning, across all the phases till now and 2 phases to go?
Yeah, Mark, I have looked at various election cycles across electoral history, especially in the last 2 decades. But the kind of enthusiasm, energy, the kind of engagement, the kind of shift of narratives that we see in this particular election cycle is unique. And in fact, it does signal a certain transition in Indian politics also. Because you see, elections, when we started out as an independent nation, I still remember, looking at research and history. At that time, when the first general election happened, India really set, its foot on the terra firma of democracy. And at that time, when the first set of parliamentarians came to Lok Sabha, they said that the national election has become a cause of unity. What I could today say safely is that our elections are so hotly contested, sometimes they become so bitter, so shrill, that the appearance that we get is that yes, there is a very active competition, but then there is political bitterness, which really needs to go away, because all the parliamentarians share the responsibility of bringing the elections back to what their original purpose is, really to take the country forward, to elect a new government democratically, to ensure a smooth transition, which we've successfully done all these years, but to maintain a level of discourse, to maintain a dignified rhetoric and narrative level. It's a shared responsibility of all parties.
Okay, Ms. Tandon, also, how hard is it for journalists to cover this election, of this size? There are so many candidates. I mean, people can't remember all their names. Issues also vary from different parts of the country. And you've covered so many elections, so perhaps you're the right person to answer this.
So let me put it, if I were to just give you a small data point, that 69% of the Indian population will vote. So you can imagine how staggering that figure is. And it is actually a celebration of our democracy. But what makes this particular cycle a little difficult to cover, not just cover for journalists, but also difficult for candidates to campaign, is the soaring heat. Look at the temperatures today. In several parts of North India, temperatures are going through the roof. Today we have 45 degree. And you also know that Election Commission has been petitioned in this particular poll cycle by a number of parties to look at the period during which the national elections can be conducted. And we have also seen, Mark, that in the earlier phases voter enthusiasm was a little low, and climatic conditions were obviously blamed for that, which obviously is a clear cause of a number of key constituencies witnessing lower percentages of polling than the previous 2019 general election. Although as the phases are progressing, we are seeing the gap closing, but you don't want a condition where because of weather people are unable to vote. But having said that, I also want to congratulate and laud the Election Commission for going an extra mile and to ensure this time that all 80 plus people are able to vote from their homes. Today we had beautiful pictures of Murli Manohar Joshi, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, his wife Gursharan Kaur, all elder citizens voting from their homes. So that was a very happy picture, and that was actually a symbol of Election Commission empowering voters.
Ms. Tandon, when we look at the campaigning that's going on over so many phases and key campaigners going to different parts of the country, does it give, a chance for all the parties to really understand the ground reality, the mood of the nation, and to what extent does it help them in, policy decisions? I mean, after all, they made promises and manifestos and all, but policy decisions going forward once they are elected.
As far as I see in the field, you see, mobilization in the election period is a very challenging task. If you look at the opposition matrix, you will see that Congress party, which is the principal opposition party, used to have a frontal organization, they still have a frontal organization called the Seva Dal, which was extremely active in the years after independence, and even pre-independence they played a very important role in mobilizing cadres around national movements, at that time the freedom movement, and later on, in issues involving nation building. But gradually the Seva Dal lost its relevance, and it is not what it used to be. Now if we come to the BJP firmament, we see their very active presence across polling booths. They are much more visible, their election material is much more visible. And, the use of money in electioneering has also become very significant, Mark, because you do need a lot of money to arrange campaigns. And because the transition is now happening to the digital space, which is a new space for most parties and most leaders, and they really do not have that kind of money to foot the digital expense. So that, I think that's something the Election Commission will need to look at, because in the larger game and in far future, we'll have to see how a level playing field can be maintained. I was visiting Chandni Chowk the other day. It is a hub of election material industry. We have seen Chandni Chowk, a bustling industry worth crores, but it is seeing a terminal decline because nobody is going to Chandni Chowk for printing of pamphlets anymore. The entire campaign has shifted online. So it's really about how much can you capture, can you bring in YouTubers, can you get influencers to say your thing. So, somewhere I see, Mark, that human conversation which you referred to at the start of your comment, where the candidate actually looks at the pulse of the people, that is gradually vanishing. That is the cost of digital campaigning.
A final question, Ms. Tandon, to what extent do personalities and leadership qualities influence the minds of voters over issues? Or are they correlated in the best possible way?
If I look at the recent national election cycles, especially from the time when Mr. Narendra Modi came onto the scene, the election atmosphere has really changed, and he appears to have dominated the mind space of a large number of voters, and he has, in many ways, although we are a parliamentary democracy, turned the election into a presidential form, because he is a very imposing personality. Everything revolves around him. So if you are into the election narrative and campaigning, you're either talking against Mr. Narendra Modi or talking for him. So he happens to be the central figure. To that extent, he remains a very important figure of this election. And everything and everybody is talking around him, you know, either you attack him or you support him, but it is about him. Similarly, if you go down to even regional parties, Mark, Mamta Banerjee of the TMC, a big personality. MK Stalin of the DMK, again a personality. YSRCP's chief Jagan Mohan Reddy, TDP chief Chandrababu Naidu. So it is all about election. The first thing, if you are asked about elections, the first thing that comes to your mind is who are these stalwarts dominating the electoral cycle. So I would say issues always remain important. They do dictate narratives, but it is really up to the political leaders and stalwarts and veterans to shape those narratives. So I believe that politicians and leaders and stalwarts and personalities seem to take precedence progressively over issues in our elections.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Ms. Aditi Tandon, Associate Editor of the Tribune. Thank you for throwing light on India's general elections. In more international updates, as Israel continues its ground operations against Hamas in northern Gaza, humanitarian aid began arriving through a temporary pier built by the United States in the Gaza Strip. That happened on Friday. Now, the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is going to be visiting Israel on May 19. Let's look at this report.
The Israel-Hamas conflict, now in its 8th month, doesn't seem to see the end of the tunnel. In Gaza's largest refugee camp, Jabalia, Israeli forces engaged in some of the fiercest battles against Hamas terrorists on Friday. With an aim to contain the ongoing humanitarian crisis in the Strip, Friday saw 8 trucks moving ashore from a temporary pier built by the United States, the first to reach the besieged enclave by sea in weeks.
As we speak, additional aid from the United States and other countries is arriving in Cyprus, where it will be screened by Israeli authorities and loaded onto ships for delivery via the maritime corridor, the temporary pier that we've been talking about.
The White House also said that U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan would visit Israel on May 19th and stress the need for a targeted operation against Hamas rather than a full-scale assault on Rafah.
I can announce today that our National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan will travel to Saudi Arabia starting tomorrow. He'll be there to meet with Prime Minister and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to discuss bilateral and regional matters, including the war in Gaza, of course, and ongoing efforts to achieve a lasting peace and security in the region. On Sunday, the next day, Mr. Sullivan will travel to Israel to meet with senior Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Netanyahu, to discuss, of course, the war in Gaza, including ongoing negotiations to secure the release of all the hostages.
Israel on Friday said that its forces retrieved the bodies of 3 hostages killed at the Nova Music Festival in Israel on October 7th.
It's a heavy heart that I share the news that last night the Israel Defense Forces and ISA forces rescued the bodies of our hostages, Shani Luke, Amit Buskila, and Yitzhak Lerenter, who were taken hostage during the Hamas massacre on October 7th and murdered. They were murdered by Hamas.
On the Lebanese front, Israeli military continued its air strikes against Hezbollah. As per Israeli forces, they struck key targets of the terror group. The fight in Gaza, causing destruction in the enclave, continues without a pause as the ceasefire talks have reached an impasse. Nupur Praveen for DD India.
And the Georgian President, Salome Zurabishvili, has announced that she has vetoed a draft law on foreign agents. Speaking at a press conference on Saturday, the President, Salome, confirmed that she had vetoed the bill which was awaiting her signature after being passed in Parliament earlier this week. Earlier, mass protests swept through the Georgian capital, Tbilisi, over the past month since the first reading of the draft law was passed in Parliament. Let's take a look now at other stories making the news. The Delhi police on Saturday arrested Bibhav Kumar, the aide and former personal secretary of the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, in connection with the alleged assault of the Aam Aadmi Party MP Swati Maliwal. Meanwhile, a court disposed of Bibhav Kumar's anticipatory bail plea, terming it as infructuous. India's meteorological department has forecast heatwave conditions over the northwest, central and eastern parts of the country over the next few days. The IMD has said that the heat wave to a severe heat wave is going to exist. The conditions are expected over parts of Rajasthan and Punjab, Haryana and Delhi, and it's going to last till Tuesday. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. The napkin used by Barcelona to sign the soccer legend Lionel Messi sells for nearly $1 million.
We are in Cannes, the famous city on the French Riviera. The 77th edition of the Cannes Film Festival is here. So soak into 12 days of world cinema and the hottest fashion trends. The famous 24 steps leading to the Palais des Festivals, where most of the cinema at this festival is screened, are beckoning. Join me, Munmun Bhattacharya, as I take you through all the buzz around the festival and on India's participation in it, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Time to get you the glitz and glamour from the Cannes Film Festival. And this next report tells us more. Okay, what does it take then to restore an old film and screen it afresh? The Bharat Pavilion of India, it saw an interesting discussion on the restoration of Shyam Benegal directed Manthan.
Hours before the screening, Manthan had its red carpet moment at the Palais des Festivals. The screening in Cannes was made possible because reels of the 1976 film were preserved in film vaults for decades and restored. At the Bharat Pavilion, Shivendra Singh Dungarpur, founder-director of the Film Heritage Foundation of India, gave a glimpse into the tedious restoration process.
We didn't have the sound, and we had to take it from different prints. We had to get the DG betas. There was a lot of work. In fact, the film was not syncing because the prints were already cut by the projection. You know, when they go for projection, so it was a huge challenge to bring it back.
The film will now be released in theatres in 70 Indian cities on World Milk Day on 1st June. But this is not a solo project of the Government of India.
I'm very happy that we could play an instrumental role in getting this film restored, and not just this film. I mean, we have a project. We call it the National Film Heritage Mission Project, and under that project, we have allocated more than 1,000 crores, and 4,000 films, 4,000 plus films, are being restored at the National Film Archives of India.
Manthan was inspired by the pioneering milk cooperative movement of Dr. Verghese Kurian, the father of the White Revolution in India.
My father thought of doing this simply because he had just started Operation Flood, which was responsible for the revolution in milk in India. And he felt that this story was a story worthwhile to be told. It was also a film that was taken to all the villages by the spearhead team and shown to the villagers to start cooperatives in the villages that were covered under Operation Flood.
Manthan is credited for unleashing a socio-economic transformation in India and for being instrumental in empowering farmers and thus helping India become self-sufficient in milk production.
Doing this great job of restoring a film, which is not just a film, it's actually a socio-economic impact on the Indian society and dairy industry and empowerment of women that we are talking about, but which happened almost 50 years back.
Manthan's story revolves around the struggles and triumphs of a small group of farmers that come together to form a dairy cooperative to improve their economic conditions. It depicts the story of the inception of an extraordinary dairy cooperative movement that transformed India from a milk-deficient country to the world's largest producer of milk. With cameraman YK Loknath, this is Munmun Bhattacharya from Cannes for DD India.
And staying with Cannes, the director Jia Zhangke premiered Caught by the Tides at Cannes on Saturday, where his latest film is competing for the festival's top prize. The Cannes veteran Jia appeared with the members of the film team on the red carpet for the premiere. The film tells the story of two young lovers from the beginning of the millennium, spanning the 2 decades to the present day and charting some of the changes across China in the same period. The festival, now in its 77th edition, closes on May 25 when the top prize is awarded by the jury. Let's get to the sports news now. The long-anticipated world heavyweight title unifying fight between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk is to take place in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia tonight. Fury, the 35-year-old British WBC champion, and his 37-year-old Ukrainian counterpart Usyk. Usyk holds the WBA, WBO, IBF and IBO belts, are going to lock horns over 12 rounds in the Ring of Fire boxing event in Riyadh. The winner from this clash will become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. But both men have been undefeated over successful careers for a long time. Only one is going to walk away from their bout with all belts boxing has to offer at the top. From the first start, this is going to be for the first time since the turn of the century. The fight will be shown in over 200 countries across the world. Chile's Nicolas Jarry beat birthday boy and the US 14-seed Tommy Paul in 3 sets to book his spot in the Italian Open final in Rome. The 21st seed claimed a 6-3, 6-7, 6-3 win to advance to his maiden ATP Masters 1000 showpiece match. In the other semi-final, a former champion, Alexander Zverev, fought back from a disastrous start to beat Chile's Alexandra Tabilo in reaching the final. And the 27-year-old will face Chile's Nicolas Jarry in the title match on Sunday. The auction house Bonhams has said that a napkin on which Barcelona promised to sign Lionel Messi when he was just 13 years old has been sold for $969,000. Messi became one of the world's greatest players, in fact, perhaps the greatest player of all time, winning more than 30 trophies and leaving the Catalan club as its all-time leading scorer with 672 goals. He also won a record 8 Ballon d'Or awards, which are given to the world's best player, and he's also led Argentina to a World Cup win in 2022. Now Messi plays for the US club Inter Miami. And with that, we conclude this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you who are on the go, you can get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available both on Android and iOS platforms. Scan that QR code on your screen and download it. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lin. From all of us here in Delhi, thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.